My name is Jesse Butler, and this is my video submission for cell biology. To begin, I'll introduce the atomic theory, which is created by John Dalton. The atomic theory is matter is made of atoms, and atoms are indivisible. Elements are a substance comprised of atoms of the same atomic number. The smallest representation of an element is the atom. The atom is comprised of neutrons, protons, and electrons. The nucleus of the atom consists of just the neutrons and the protons, and the electrons are in the outside of the nucleus. This is called the electron shell. The outermost electrons are known as the valence electrons. The valence electrons are electronegative, and that means that they attract, that's how strong they attract other electrons. Each atom could be an electron donor, which means that they give off electrons, or they could be an electron acceptor, and that means they would accept an electron. Elements are used in bonds. The bonds consist of several different types of bonds. Polar covalent bond is a bond between electrons that is not shared equally. You have a non-polar covalent bond, which is a bond between electrons that are shared equally. You have a double covalent bond, which is a bond that involves 2 electron pairs. A triple covalent bond, which is a bond that involves 3 electron pairs. And an ionic bond, which is a bond between oppositely charged ions. These bonds could be adhesive or cohesive, which adhesive means the combination of 2 unsimilar halves coming together to create a whole, where cohesive is the combination of 2 similar halves coming together to create a whole. The element it has 3 different types of numbers. It has the atomic number, the atomic weight, and the molecular weight. The atomic number is the number of protons found in the nucleus. The atomic weight is the average mass of the atoms in an element. And the molecular weight is the mass of all the atoms in the chemical formula. Moles are used as a, I guess you would say, a gradient in a sense. You know, it's a collection of Avogadro's number of an object. When you calculate moles, you use a metric, and that's a gram, which is a metric measurement used in a science to measure mass. Then you have a meter, which is a metric measurement used in science to measure distance. You have a millimeter, which is a metric measurement used in science to measure distance that is much smaller than a meter. And a liter is a metric measurement used in science to measure capacity. The mole is associated with Avogadro's number. Avogadro's number is the number of carbon atoms in 12 grams of carbon, whereas molarity is moles divided by liters, and molarity is the concentration of solution in a solute. When we go back to the bonds, an ionic bond has 2. It has a hydrogen ion and a hydronium ion. A hydrogen ion is an ion formed when an electron is added to a hydrogen atom. A hydronium ion is the predominant form of a proton in a liquid state. A hydrogen ion is a cation, and a hydronium ion is an anion. An example of, cations are like salt, which salt is an ionic compound created by replacing hydrogens with cations. And salt leads us to phosphate, which phosphate is a salt of phosphoric acid, and which leads us to nucleotides, which is the basic building block of a nucleic acid, which nucleic acid is a chain of nucleotides better known as DNA or RNA. On the flip side, we have the anions. Anions are a negatively charged ion, which leads us to sugars. Sugars are a substance composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And sugars are comprised of carbohydrates, which carbohydrates are a sugar or other related compounds. I do not know how to say that word. Polysaccharides is a carbohydrate that has a sugar molecule bonded together. And monosaccharides is a sugar that cannot be made into a simpler sugar. Elements critical to life are hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Hydrogen is related to the hydroxyl group. The hydroxyl group is a chemical group consisting of hydrogen atoms connected to an oxygen atom. And carbon is related to the carbonyl group. Carbonyl group is a carbon atom connected to an oxygen atom via a double bond. Hydroxyl and carbonyl are related to the ketone, which is an organic compound containing a carbonyl group. Hydroxyl and carbonyl share the aldehyde and the carboxyl. Aldehyde is an organic compound that is reactive and contains the HC double bond O group. And carboxyl is a carbon atom connected to an oxygen atom and the hydroxyl group by a double bond. Hydroxyl is linked to alcohol, because alcohol is an organic compound that is bonded with a hydroxyl group bound to a carbon atom, which leads us to amino. Amino is a compound that has an atom bonded with group NH subscript 2. Amine is a molecule that contains the group NH subscript 2. Amino also has amino acids. Which is an organic molecule that contains both an amino group and a carboxyl group, which leads us to proteins, which is a polymer comprised of amino acids that gives cells their shape and structure. Water is a nonpolar covalent bond. And water is a part of the hydrogen bond network of water. Water has isotopes. An isotope is an isomer. An isomer is a compound that have the same molecule composition but different structures. Water is an isotope, and we have radioactive isotopes. Radioactive isotopes are chemical elements with different masses whose nuclei are unstable and dissipate excess energy by emitting radiation. Water isotopes are hydrophobic interactions as well. I'm reading the heck out of this. Hydrophobic interactions. This is an interaction dealing with water, usually involving a collision of some sort, which leads us to hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding is bonds of intermolecular molecules containing hydrogen to an electronegative element. This leads us to half-life. Half-life is the time needed for the concentration of a reactant substance to decrease to half its initial size. Water is also used in lipids. Lipids are an organic compound composed of fatty acids and are insoluble in water, but soluble in organic solvents. Phospholipids are a major type of lipid found in the cell membranes composed of two fatty acid tails, which leads us to fatty acids that are molecules that are made up of carboxyl acids attached to the hydrocarbon chain. The fatty acids are consisted of unsaturated fats and saturated fats. Unsaturated fats are fats that contain one or more double or triple bond between carbon atoms. Saturated fats are fats that contain no double or triple bonds between carbon atoms. Lipids are also related to the glycolipids. Glycolipids are molecules located in the membrane lipid with a short carbohydrate chain. Glycerol is a liquid formed as a byproduct of manufacturing soap. And glycoprotein is any protein with one or more covalent bond oligosaccharide. Methyl is a hydrophobic group derived from methane. So it has relations to hydroxyl, carbonyl, and ketone, which is also related to sulfhydryl. Sulfhydryl is a univalent radical group. Elements also have a pH scale. pH means a scale used to detail the acid-base status of a substance. A base is a substance that has increased concentration of OH negative, whereas an acid has a substance that has increased concentration of H+. That's it.